I did something like this a few years back, and it was a lot of fun, so I thought this would be the same, and this is fun. So.
And having all the people come down and help is my best day of the year. It's my favorite day.
It has pineapple, raisins, coconuts.
That sounds good. And then this is the regular. This is regular thing, coleslaw.
Sculpting was once out of the question for Jim Leedy. Just a year ago, this artist was confined to a wheelchair, the result of rheumatoid arthritis, a disease that attacks the body's joints.
I don't know how to describe the ache, but anyone that's had rheumatoid arthritis knows it's like the worst toothache, but it's in your whole body.
Researchers now believe that irreversible joint damage often begins during the first 2 years of the disease onset. For this reason, doctors are now advocating early intervention and aggressive treatment with therapy that modifies the disease. This latest disease-modifying drug called Areva played a key role in getting Leedy feeling better and back to work sculpting.
Rheumatoid arthritis is a severe disease. It needs to be diagnosed and treated earlier in the course of disease with disease-modifying agents like Areva, which have been shown not only to improve patients' symptoms, but also to slow progression of disease.
Rheumatoid arthritis, which has no cure, is not only physically debilitating, but causes a great deal of emotional stress as well. In fact, it's estimated that more than half of all rheumatoid arthritis patients must stop working within 10 years of diagnosis. Fortunately, that was not the case with Jim Leedy.
I believe that the Areva is very important in stopping the inflammation and therefore giving me the freedom from pain and the freedom to move around, move about, and do my work.
The symptoms of rheumatoid arthritis include persistent joint swelling and soreness, fatigue, and prolonged stiffness in the morning. Early diagnosis and aggressive treatment of the disease is vital. Anyone experiencing these symptoms should consult a doctor as soon as possible.
And what always strikes me is a turkey, and I don't really know why it is a turkey. But it's a good costume, and I would get a turkey today too. But for me, that's kind of art.
An unforgettable day for him and for many others in the Twin Ports. In Duluth, Jana Katsuyama, News 6. The line started early this morning. People waiting to get in and get a jump on their holiday shopping.
The lines were so long waiting to get in. It was just baffling to me that people do that at 6 o'clock in the morning.
We got here early. We wanted to get, well, not 7 o'clock. I don't do that. But we got here about 10. I figured that'd be easier. And there were still places in the parking lots.
And from the front door to the cash registers, lines were long, and it was a bit of a waiting game. The retailers were happy, but as the day wore on, shoppers started wearing out.
Seemed like forever, but I think it's been 2 hours. About 7:30.
7:30?
Oh, no, you've been here a long time.
For some, caffeine was a cure.
It's extra strong. That keeps me on my feet to keep up with her.
Others actually enjoyed just being out and on their feet.
It's kind of nice to walk after Thanksgiving. I mean, you gotta walk all that dinner off.
But as people who are out today know, walking and shopping in crowds like these is no easy feat. In Duluth, Jana Katsuyama, News 6.
out there to understand that we deserve a second chance, and I ain't gonna do it again.
But convicted sex offender Dale Allen Williams did repeat his crime, and now, 4 years after talking with I-Team 6, he is being released from prison again. That is why Duluth police say the community notification program is so important.
The beauty of this program, the reason we're all here tonight, the reason this team came together and makes this thing work, is because we recognize that we now have a very, very valuable tool to come to the neighborhoods and let people know when these offenders are going to be released.
Dory Jensen, who works with sexual assault victims, agrees the program is important to the community.
Parents and everyone need to be aware, and we need to be vigilant also. Law enforcement cannot possibly be the only eyes and ears in the community. You know, we as citizens have to be also.
Ironically, Williams told I-Team 6 4 years ago that he opposed the notification law, fearing the publicity would jeopardize his own safety.
I have seen and read out west where sex offenders were either burnt out, harassed, killed.
But police say since the program began, none of the 6 offenders have reported harassment or vandalism. And they say the program has been very successful by keeping released sex offenders in line.
Right, this is our 6th level 3 notification here in Duluth. 3 of these fellows have gone back to prison. I do not believe that any of them would have gone back to prison prior to the community notification law.
And with more sex offenders scheduled to be released early next year, police hope the public will help keep our community safe. In Duluth, Jana Katsuyama, News 6.
Arrow.
ATVs, 4x4s, and motorcycles are built to go off the road, even off the beaten path. But some environmentalists say such trailblazing is a hazard, with people illegally using off-limit trails.
What we're looking at here is symbolic of what we're seeing statewide. A trail that's been posted closed to motorized vehicles. In fact, it's posted twice. It's been gated. The gates have been ripped open.
Jeff Brown's group, Minnesotans for Responsible Recreation, is asking state lawmakers to get tougher on off-road vehicle users. They want restrictions on where off-road vehicles can travel, saying tracks like these cause irreparable environmental damage.
And this really illustrates one of our biggest concerns about environmental impacts of these machines.
Brown says these tracks will cause erosion and pollute the river, creating problems that will continue to grow. But Ron Nelson, founder of the Arrowhead ATV Club, says such concerns are an exaggeration.
There are some problems in some areas, but it's so overblown from what they state. But I don't see it as a huge problem. This impacting the soil and stuff on a hillside up there that eventually will probably be developed. It's certainly not going to impact the soil in the area as much as a new golf course.
What both sides do agree on is that riders need to be more responsible and the state needs better regulations and enforcement. In Duluth, Jana Katsuyama, News 6.
Actually, your phone bill could go down. Economic cost. The real cost is probably $20. That's a credit. Every Minnesota resident, metro or rural, must have the power of choice in the telecommunications marketplace. We want no less than 2 competitors in every market for local dial tone, high-speed data, and video programming.
We made a call and wanted to find out if they were going to come back code 3. You know, once you get an ambulance down there, it's like being in the hospital anyway. You know, closest thing too. So the trick is to get the ambulance over there and then worry about coming back later. Shoot yourself in the foot. So crawl into the car, we were laughing so hard.
Oh, I've got stories to take back now.
Well, no, just say some guy, some guy.
Yeah, yeah.
He was always very smart, very helpful.
He's too clean cut for. Leave it open.
Weeks. I have not been around much in the building. I've been doing. Everything else has changed. So it's something that I didn't realize. Professionally, it's very difficult to be responsible for supervising or hiring an individual who has been involved in an incident such as this. And personally, with all of his talents and the gift he had for teaching and working with kids, to see that at some point in the near future that may be lost for him.
Abby Travel, hi, this is Tom. How can I help you?
Tom has been working more than 10 years in the travel business. He's heard about the extravagant New Year's Eve celebrations going on around the world. But when it comes to booking plans for Northlanders, he says most people here are not traveling far.
You know, it's about the normal amount. I think primarily because of costs, and you know, there's always that question of, will everything stop at midnight on the 1st? You know, so people want to stay home.
Within about a mile or two from home.
Okay. And
in case the lights go out.
It's just too wild and hectic. We like to stay home. I don't know anyone that's planning a big celebration or going out anywhere. Everybody's pretty laid back, everyone that I know.
I'm exhausted after Christmas.
Many Northlanders are staying home or staying in town. Tickets for many parties in the Northland have been sold out for months. Along with the big New Year's Eve celebration at the deck, there will be many other local festivities for people to enjoy right here in the Northland. Here at Bayfront Park, they're planning to turn it into a bit of a winter festival with fireworks, ice skating, and even ice sculptures to help people here welcome in the new year. And with so many local events, most hotels around the area say their rooms sold out long ago for New Year's Eve.
We are completely booked, and we've been booked for, I would say, about 3 months. A lot of the locals are coming in just to get down in downtown area with.
So whether it's Y2K concerns or high prices, for many Northlanders, when it comes to celebrating the millennium, there's no place like home. In Duluth, Jana Katsuyama, News 6.
Rosemary Stratiotti and her friends at the West Duluth American Legion Auxiliary are about to make the Christmas season merrier for kids at St. Mary's Hospital in Duluth.
And we want to wish you a Merry Christmas and give you this cuddly bear.
Look at that, cool.
Would you like to hold it? Merry Christmas.
Here, Cody, this is something else from the auxiliary. So you can have some goodies.
Yes.
Cody receives a big teddy bear and a little stocking filled with candy.
There is a candy cane and a chocolate marshmallow snowman. He's cream filled so the kids can easily eat it. And there's some candy kisses in there. We try to get it where the kids wouldn't choke on anything.
And big teddy bears to go to St. Mary's Life Flight.
And they will be given to our Life Flight crew to be given to children as they come in on the helicopter.
The auxiliary worked for 3 weeks on the stockings and collected 52 teddy bears from its members. Gifts that will make a scary situation a little better for children like Nicole.
And I tell you, it was loads of fun, and it just makes you feel good that you're doing something for somebody else besides yourself. There's ho, ho, ho.
Mark, in less than 3 hours, the Metrodome will be packed with diehard Viking and Packers fans whose Christmas wish list includes watching their team head to the playoffs. Now, fans have come from all over the Midwest, including right there in Duluth.
It's a beautiful day out here. I mean, we couldn't ask for better weather. And we got the hot tub set up over here, and we're ready to party.
I heard there was going to be a warm hot tub here in a parking lot in the middle of nowhere, so I thought I'd come and check it out.
They say the excitement of the game keeps them warm, but they need more than adrenaline to survive the single-digit temperatures.
I got 2 pairs of long johns on, 2 pairs of socks, my boots, long sleeve turtleneck, a sweater, my jersey, and this, and I got a coat and a blanket and stuff in there.
Warmth. Today is all warmth. I got my jersey on under here, so when we go in the dome, I'll be in purple pride.
Fans are also in the Christmas spirit with trees decorated in team colors.
I consider myself a fairly intellectual individual, and I could see that the wise men are Vikings fans, and I want to be one of them.
Mark, a lot of these fans have been enjoying pre-game activities since early this morning, and I'm sure they'll be out here having some more fun right up until game time. And now once the game is over, some of these fans will be partying until the wee hours of the morning, while others will be going home, probably shedding a tear or two. Back to you, Mark.
The fire engulfed a home at 1529 South Street early this morning. Firefighters responded to the blaze around 6 a.m. One person was found dead at the scene, but investigators have not determined the identity or the sex of the victim. The flames also spread to the home of Harold S. Lewis at 1527 South Street, causing fire damage. The fire and the victim's identity are still being investigated.
Inside the Minnesota State Capitol, Katie Poyer's mom, lawmakers, and law officers announced the first proposal to prevent future abductions, a $15 million computer network that would carry photos, fingerprints, and other offender information to 1,100 law enforcement agencies around the state.
With all of the public awareness and all the people who really want to prevent this kind of stuff, I think that in this instance we'll move forward.
At today's news conference, Pam Poyer, whose 19-year-old daughter Katie was kidnapped and murdered in May. She's joined by mothers of Callie Jo Larson and Jacob Wetterling, two children that are also victims of crime.
What we're asking for, if we had this in place, is that it might have been a might. That's a lot better than I don't think so.
Preventing abductions from occurring in the future is a main focus of the task force, shown here meeting in November. An I-Team 6 report brought light to problems in the current justice system, including the failure to catalog fingerprints and criminal histories of felons throughout the state.
We think it's probably 30% missing fingerprint records and maybe another 5-7%, where it's a mismatch on the numbers.
The task force will look at ways of improving security at convenience stores, such as panic pagers. The proposal will have to go before the legislature before becoming law, and if passed, may help prevent another tragedy, like Katie, Callie Jo, or Jacob, from ever happening again.
The time is now to put some money into building this system and to making it work for Jacob, for Callie, for Katie, for every one of your children out there.
Maureen Tallarico, News 6.
As the light of day slowly fades over Lake Superior, the brilliant colors are replaced with the dark of night, the longest night of the winter. But that doesn't stop some folks from gathering around a roaring bonfire at the Two Harbors Lighthouse to remember the positive side of the winter solstice, that brighter days are on the way.
It's the shortest day of the year, and starting tomorrow the days will start getting longer, and for those of us that live way up north, it's important to see the sun shine some more.
In ancient times, winter solstice celebrations encouraged the sun to come back for the summer. But nowadays it's a chance to relax with friends and family, enjoying a snapping fire and singing a few carols.
Jesus, Lord of thy birth.
Folks also got a lesson in astronomy. This year's solstice is unusual because of the brilliant full moon.
The moon is at what is called perigee. It is closer to the Earth than it's at its closest point to the Earth right now.
The view was stunning as the moon rose over the lake, seen from the campfire or with the help of a telescope.
Tonight it is closer to the Earth on the solstice than it will be for another 133 years.
For those who couldn't brave the cold on this first day of winter, there was plenty of hot cider and sloppy joes inside.
She's from California, so she's not used to this weather.
No, not exactly.
Folks say it was a fun way to appreciate the light, even in the dark of winter.
The sun went down and the moon came up and the big fire. It was just what I needed. I just feel like so refreshed in my spirit.
In Two Harbors, Kim Kaiser, News 6.
My grandfather bought the place in 1941, so it's 59th year of business under my family, third generation, same location.
Meet Naomi, Tanya, Bryce, and Derek.
And one more time.
And don't forget Big Brother Trenton. These 7-month-old quadruplets from Renshaw are quite a handful for their mom, Lori Moe.
Come on, all the way, all the way, all the way. Yay! Good job.
Which doesn't leave much time to get ready for the baby's first Christmas.
I'm holding Derek, and he's teething pretty bad right now, so he's just a little tender today.
But she does know what the quads want from Santa this year.
They're asking for no more teething, or is that me asking for that?
Lori has received a lot of help from a generous community long before the holiday season started. The 4 wooden cribs, cases of formula, stacks of blankets and clothes for 4 growing babies, all donated or hand-me-downs.
People have been just wonderful, so it has been Christmas, you know, all the time as far as the babies' things. But I'll tell you, it's been a lot of work, but I wouldn't change it, not at all.
Even during tricky feedings, made difficult with 2 squirming babies and 2 more waiting for a bottle.
In there you get in baths and bottles and diapers and laundry, and Trenton's got to come in there sometimes.
But in the midst of her family's crazy schedule, Lori remembers last Christmas, when she and her husband first learned that 4 babies were on the way, when they didn't know how many would survive.
So it's been 1 year since we've had to look at all this, and I can do nothing but thank God that we made the decision we did, because we ended up with 4 very healthy babies.
The perfect gift.
5 years ago, I had 1 very special present, and now I got 4 this year, so no complaints here. There's not a gift in the world that could ever take the place of the 5 presents I've already received.
Yeah, I think that's what it's.
We had a batch of damn.
Some years for Christmas, that's where they give all his brothers and sisters some of the neighbors. Others just be born now. She always had that at Christmas time. It was just terrible this year. Got some
A lot of
carrots.
stuff didn't plant beans.
The actual blood donating part, what these people are doing right now, only lasts about 5 to 10 minutes. So the process is very, very simple. And usually once someone does it once, they'll do it again and again because they realize it's not a huge deal. So it is just trying to get people in to do it for the first time.
It's rewarding. You don't actually see what the results are, but it's still, you know, something's good's happening.
For months, Minnesota Power has been preparing for Y2K, including a drill of the backup system in September. But no matter how much electric companies prepare, nobody can predict what element terrorism will play in the Northland or North America. Our cameras weren't even allowed inside this area, videotaped earlier by the company.
We haven't had any specific threats to Minnesota Power's system, but we were advised by the government to take extra security precautions because electric facilities could be targets of these people.
The company has added staff for New Year's Eve and Day and has a contingency plan of communication between power companies should one system on the power grid go down.
It's fairly common for a utility somewhere to lose a generating unit for a period of time, and then the neighboring utilities will make up the difference with capacity that they have online.
Still, Heino says people should be prepared with flashlights, batteries, and several days' food supply just in case of an extended outage. Why would a power company say, have batteries, have food for 3 days or something, if you're so sure there's not going to be any problems?
Well, I think year in and year out, that's good advice, because you never know when there's going to be a storm or something that could cause an extended outage. So it's better to be preparing ahead of time than scrambling around if there is a problem.
And neither Heino or anyone else for that matter can really know what will happen when the clock strikes 12. Can anyone say for sure, though, with any certainty that nothing's going to happen?
No.
In Duluth, Maureen Tallarico, News 6.
Burden to put on somebody. I know.
If you can keep your symptoms under pretty good control with over-the-counter medicines like Advil or Tylenol and cold formulas, then for the most part, you probably don't need to come in, especially if you're otherwise healthy. But if you got underlying lung disease or you got diabetes or generally, you know, have had a lot of pneumonia in the past, things like that, then you should probably be checked out if you think you're getting the flu.
There's been many exciting things happen in our Lincoln Park.
Martha will pick up the ballots and count them for us.
My office as Councilor 4th District for the term expiring January 7th, the year 2000.
And why I wanted to be appointed to this seat during this particular 2-year period of time. I believe this council is going to be addressing a lot of the housing issues, and again, a lot of my volunteer effort has been with housing, neighborhood housing services, and affordable housing and that type of thing. During the interviews, what I did try to get across was certainly the kind of volunteer efforts that I have been involved in, at least in one neighborhood of the district for the last 17 years, and I think we've made some great strides there. I've lived in the district all my life. I grew up in Piedmont Heights. I wanted to make that kind of a connection. I care about it, you know.
This meeting is posted on the bulletin board, and copies are available at the rear of the chambers.
We have, if we're going to do the public hearing, let's do a public hearing on each and every one of our agenda items to be sent down to St. Paul. And perhaps we won't get any speakers, but Umpqua. I guess that's a chance that we need to look at. But why this one project out of all 16 projects?
Confronted with a blizzard of extra cash,
we're going to have another rebate.
House Republicans are piling up ways to spend it in what they dubbed today lunch bucket economics.
Lunch buckets are what people are about in the state of Minnesota. This morning, bread, peanut butter, jelly.
Indeed, a mix of tax deductions and property tax cuts sandwiched between an income tax cut and a midsummer rebate. Here are the specifics. Republicans propose to slice nearly 10% off each tax bracket. A family of 4 making $50,000 would owe $144 less to the government. In the $150,000 range, the cut would amount to $723 less, which is why House DFLers said this.
This is a tax break that if you've got a lunch bucket that's loaded with caviar and oysters Rockefeller, that it might in fact be a great tax cut for you.
Republicans are also pitching a tax deduction for health care premiums and another summertime rebate that would amount to about $250. But it's not just the DFL who may be eager to put the lock on Republican lunch buckets. Governor Ventura wants to spend $500 million less of the surplus on tax cuts, and he wants to wait for the 2001 budget session.
We believe that there is probably 60% more monies available for tax cuts than the Ventura administration is projecting.
Which means there are storms in the forecast for session 2000.
That sex offenders are difficult, if not impossible, to treat. Once you've got convictions for sex offenses, I think we've all got a real concern having those types of people on the streets again.
Douglas County Attorney Dan Blank voiced that concern back when convicted sex offender Keith Van Bronckhorst was about to be set free. Blank asked the court to put him in an institution after his prison term, but the court ruled Van Bronckhorst could be released. Van Bronckhorst started showing up at his old church, Faith United Methodist Church in Superior, to worship. Pastor Lawrence Gable remembers being faced with a difficult decision.
There were several families that were really concerned about this because of his particular conviction, and we tried to, help people understand that he was a part of our congregation.
The church council finally decided to open their doors to Van Bronckhorst.
What the council agreed to is that he would attend our 8:30, now it's 8:15 service, because there were very few children there, and also we could watch him and make sure that he stayed within the agreement.
Van Bronckhorst was also forbidden to go near the church's daycare, but soon began violating the agreement, showing up at services when children were present. Gable decided to take action. In November, he notified Van Bronckhorst's supervisor, who had him put temporarily back in jail.
I know that he could lose his freedom, and I don't take that lightly at all.
Next week, it will be up to a judge to decide if Van Bronckhorst can remain a free man or be put into an institution again. If he's released and comes back to the church, Gable says he knows what he'll do.
And I have a real concern about that now. And before, it was mostly older people who came to the early service, and now we got more and more families coming to it. And at this point, I think I basically will ask that he not come back, that he find another church.
In Superior, Jana Katsuyama, News 6.
Junk mail to email, we're being bombarded by something. That's not a new trend, but what is new is the fact that the seller now knows a lot more about us.
I do resent getting the telephone calls, and somebody that doesn't know me calls me Mary and asks me how I am.
Not only do they know your name, they know your height, weight, date of birth, sometimes even how much you have in the bank.
It's a lot different than when records were kept. That's not the case anymore.
Our most personal records, including financial and medical, are often now kept on computers. And in many cases, those records are being made available to telemarketers who target you for their particular product.
We do provide the information for a fee to a broad array of customers.
The more Minnesotans find out how much of their personal health information is being released, the more concerned about it they would be.
It's concern about that erosion of personal privacy that has state lawmakers scrambling to find ways to protect citizens. The DFL Minnesota Consumer Privacy Protection Package would do a number of things, including require banks to get written customer permission before releasing any information, require medical facilities to get patient permission before providing personal information to any state department or transferring records electronically. Also, telephone companies would need written authorization before providing personal phone numbers, and state licensing agencies would not be allowed to release personal information without explicit consumer approval. This issue is expected to be one of the first items on the legislative agenda when the session begins February 1st. In Duluth, Barbara Riles, News 6.
From the NBC News Archives and MSNBC, this is a Time and Again 2000 Millennium Minute with Jane Pauley.
After World War I, before the Great Depression, America threw itself a party, the Roaring Twenties. But there was no drinking allowed. Not legal drinking, anyway. It was called Prohibition. The 18th Amendment, ratified on January 16, 1919. Organized crime went into the liquor business, and bootleggers answered the call for illegal alcohol.
The law said you could no longer buy a drink, but many respectable people still wanted to drink. This was a service the underworld could provide. To run the liquor business required money, connections, organization. As big business, big government, big labor were created, so was big crime.
Time and Again 2000 is brought to you by Schneiderman's Furniture.
This new medical technology is being used as a safety tool for parents. It's called DNA ID. It's a virtually infallible way to positively verify a child's identity. The test can be used to establish paternity, reduce the risk of babies being switched in the hospital, and to aid law enforcement if a child is missing.
DNA ID is the only permanent, reliable form of identification that we have in small children. DNA ID in all people is reliable to 99.999%. That's the ability to identify one person out of 10 trillion, and that is staggering reliability.
Because footprints, blood profiles, and dental records are not always accurate forms of identification for children under 7, doctors believe that DNA identification is an option that more parents should explore.
DNA ID is very safe. The swab itself is safely collected in the hospital or in the doctor's office by swabbing the mouth with a very soft swab. After that is performed, a certificate is made from the analysis of this DNA, and that's kept by the parent.
The test is available through healthcare professionals. Whether it's at birth or later in life, choosing DNA identification can help ensure peace of mind for parents and a permanent record for children that will never change. Barbara Riles, News 6.
Our Presidents and Superior played a very large role in this. This will be the first time in our history where we're going to support another facility from one that's already more of a satellite center from our corporate office.
They were even rude during read aloud, and they always refused to do their lessons. Keep your mouth shut. Sit perfectly still. And if you misbehave, you'll be shot. Ugly black dress. When it was time for bed, she sang a I think Ms. Kershak kitchen room 109 settle down. They whispered and giggled. This
We'd like to thank the Duluth police officers for coming down and volunteering.
People of all ages came to Mr. D's in Duluth today to raise money for the Paul Antonich Scholarship. The scholarship is in its 4th year and goes to a Duluth Central High School senior on the track team.
The winners have all known Paul. They've been on the team with Paul, and this year's winner, whoever it will also be someone that was on the same team with Paul. So there's still a direct connection there, and that's very, very special. It's a very emotional time each year when we give this award out.
To raise money for the award, local businesses donated several prizes, and the volunteer workers at the event included people from all walks of life, including the police department and even the mayor's office.
This has really been enjoyable for me. This is the kind of thing that where you get a chance to see how the community will step forward.
And hundreds of community members did step forward today to honor Paul Antonich's memory by buying spaghetti dinners, listening to bands, and registering for the door prizes. Paul's family appreciated their efforts.
It's difficult to get through death in itself, but somehow you find strength in the folks that turn out and do things, and that there are a lot of really good people in our world, and that helps us get through.
In Duluth, Dave Anderson, News 6.
I was sort of in amazement. I was like, I didn't know if it was a joke or if it was actual reality.
For fire and rescue students at Lake Superior College, today's lesson in life-saving may have seemed a little foul when an emergency rescue call sent them down the St. Louis River to rescue a goose named Coos.
We were sitting in class this morning, and our teaching assistant, Paula Saluka here, came and got us and said that there was a goose stranded in Cloquet, couldn't get out of the ice, and so we were the lucky ones to try to go and get it.
I know.
Marcy Stolberg says her goose flew the coop 4 days ago when some neighborhood dogs tried to turn old Coos into their next meal.
When dogs come around, she will get scared and fly, and she flew out of the quarry and got into the river in the open water.
Marcy says Coos injured a wing during the chase, leaving her stranded in the freezing river and making her a sitting duck for some hungry predators.
And the bald eagle was waiting for her to die. He kept soaring over, and she'd holler at him, really squawk, "I'm not dead yet."
That's when a concerned neighbor decided it was time to call for help. But thin ice rescues are extremely risky, especially when they're over moving water.
You don't know if you're going to fall through anytime soon or if you're going to stay above the water. Aaron sort of scared the goose my way, and he hopped out on the ice, and I was getting pretty cold, so I just lunged at him.
While today's rescue may not have been graceful, at least it was successful for both Coos and for the students who hope to use the skills they learned today to help save lives in the future.
There.
In Scanlon, Craig Zleeman, News 6.
They want change.
When the Attorney General unveiled his ambitious privacy package last week, he was already braced for the onslaught of lobbyists.
There's going to be a lot of lobbying, a lot of quiet, a lot of private lobbying going on again to kill these type of bills.
How does he know? The lobbyist who showed up at Hatch's news conference was his first clue. In fact, one lobbyist joked later that Hatch's package could be called the Full Lobbyist Employment Act. Indeed, few major issues are ever debated at the Capitol without input from lobbyists, but their clout appears to be growing. A new report compiled on cash and politics reveals that in 1998, lobbyists and political action committees spent more per legislator than most legislators make.
The most important things that money does is it buys access, but more importantly what it does is what I would call it sets the agenda.
Does that mean lobbyists simply hand cash over to politicians? No, there are limits on individual contributions, so lobbyists spread the money around, giving it to political caucuses and political parties.
I think most of it is just perception.
Jill Slatton, who worked for a senator for 7 years but now lobbies, says lobbyists are just like anyone else.
The perception out there is that lobbyists get special favors with legislators. And as long as I've worked around here, and that's 7 years with Senator Novak and 4 years as lobbying, I have never seen anything like that take place.
But David Schultz isn't so sure. He says the public simply can't compete with the money and the influence lobbyists bring to the state capitol.
Our legislators are just human when faced with that amount of money, that amount of pressure.
could potentially have some applicability.
What I just said, that the regulatory authorities are cooperative directors. Attorney General's office,
$14 a month and the same
consumer issues. We are interested
as to whether or not there had been a vote,
not necessarily related to a election.
reducing our employees. We're feeling very honored.
Is gas lights or electric?
That had done work for
the 3 co-ops was pushed.
I had a woman call me that used to work in
I'm on this bus because I'm in support of Katie's Law.
Basically, we're just down to support the Poyers and try to get this bill passed.
Northlanders riding down to the state capitol hoped to help families touched by violence and to prevent any more tragedies.
To show our support for any of the legislation that Katie Poyer's family is going to be pushing for. We want to show that we're behind them 100%.
Larry and Mary Antonich have also pushed for stronger legislation after the death of their son Paul. Now they're throwing their support behind Katie's Law, joining others on the steps of the St. Paul Cathedral to send out a message: never again. As the long line of marchers stretched to the state capitol, they hoped every step would raise awareness and make a difference.
People want to go on with their lives and forget about it, and we can't. We can't for Jacob, we can't for Katie, we can't for Callie Joe, we can't for Paul. There's a million of them, you know, and that's what this is all about.
Patty Wetterling, along with other parents and family members, joined together in the rotunda, making a public plea stemming from very private pain. A list of more than 25 victims' names echoed in the rotunda as parents, struggling as if they had lost their child all over again, placed a white carnation on the state seal. And that pile of flowers grew, with one for Jacob Wetterling, one for Callie Jo Larson, and finally, one for Katie Poyer.
Katie Poyer.
All these flowers that's laying on the rotunda floor, hey, that's more than just a flower like that. Hey, that's representing, I don't know, 25, 30 people, 30 lives. And if you got that kind of a memorial, emblem, whatever, hey, it does something. It speaks pretty highly.
A very touching show of support today that many hope will encourage lawmakers to take action when the session starts up again next week. In St. Paul, I'm Kim Kaiser, News 6.